Our opening words, "To be of use," by Marge Piercy. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who stand in the line and haul in their places, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the things worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry and a person for work that is real. Our speaker this morning has already been briefly introduced by me. It's Paul Utts. He's a past president of our Board of Trustees. He served as president for 6 years. Paul, his wife Helen, and his children are longtime members of this congregation. They're lifelong Unitarians, Paul is at least, and his sister Marcia, Hannah, has been a charter member of this congregation. So it's a pleasure to have Paul come and speak to us this morning.
Well, good morning, everybody. Last night was a lot of fun, huh? I'm sorry for those of you who missed it. It really was a good time of fellowship and fun. We have only occupied this building for a couple of years, and yet already we are filling it up. There's cars in the parking lot almost every night, and during Sunday service, not only is the parking lot full, but there's often cars out onto the street. All of you chose to fill this room instead of another house of, dare I say, worship, or to stay home and read the paper, because this is where you want to be. Life swirls around us like a tempest, and yet here we find fellowship and goodwill. I have a friend who's a therapist in his day job, and he says life is a stormy sea with brief moments of calm. Here, there's a predictable moment of calm, a refuge in a tumultuous world. Personally, I'm not a big believer in the supernatural. This doesn't mean, as an agnostic, I don't pray on occasion. I just don't know exactly what I'm praying to. My wife, Helen, she believes in something, but she rarely tries to define it. But in a moment of pain or fear or crisis, she asked me to join her in sending white light out to people in our lives. I don't know how well I do, but I stop and I focus on the concern, perhaps a friend or a member of this congregation caught in life's stormy sea, and send an image of white light. Again, I'm not sure why, but there's a part of me that feels a connection to humanity and the earth beyond what I understand. In fact, during Sunday service, Barbara centers us and soothes us with her prelude. I sometimes use a technique that was also brought to us by Barbara when she brought the winter solstice service here, of imagining roots growing down through my feet, through the building, and down into the earth, connecting me with the earth's power, both living and non. Here in this place, I can tell you that I'm an atheist-leaning agnostic that sends both white light above and roots through my feet to the ground, and not be referred to a mental health specialist. I can explore things I doubt and not be excommunicated for exploring or doubting. As important, all of you, as well as my children and yours, can explore and doubt. I'm not aware of any other place like this near here. There are many places that will tell you what to believe, but this is the only place, this is the only community I'm aware of that cares what you believe. The title of this year's stewardship campaign is Reaching Within, Reaching Out. And here at UUCSJS, our staff and members of the congregation offer many opportunities to reach within, to explore not only life's persistent questions, what happens to us when we die, how did life begin, why is there evil in the world, but the constantly and ever more rapidly changing world, here we explore moral questions and matters of conscience. In our fast-paced Facebook, YouTube world, where multinational corporations own media outlets and the political system, free speech is exploding, but corporate speech is protected. You can post your blog among the millions, but it's the ADMs and the Monsantos of the world, that their message about the future of agriculture and genetic engineering that gets heard on primetime news, glossy print, and more importantly, in the halls of government. It's the BPs and the GEs that make sure that not only do we hear what they have to say, but the money to influence elections. Budget cuts are silencing the voice of public workers' unions, long the voice of protecting workers' rights. The same budget cuts are threatening the voice of public radio and television. Advances in computing track our every click on the computer, every show we watch, every book we read, everything we buy, to the point where these same large corporations know more about us than we know about ourselves. Big Brother is here, and it's not the government, it's big business. So where do matters of conscience get debated? Well, places of higher learning still have a place, but they don't really affect election, and their message is only heard by a few, and they are not immune to the influences of corporate money. And although the internet can provide a forum that foments revolution, as we've seen lately, the background noise is intense, and it can be used to spread suspicion and hate, as well as positive change. So where can we find a place for reasoned debate? I say, even in the midst of fanaticism and dogma, faith communities can and will increasingly, as they have in the past, become, if you will, a place of sanctuary. And this brings me to the reaching out part of this year's stewardship campaign. We are currently searching for a minister. I know that our ministerial search committee recognizes that this time, none of the above is a suitable option. But we've been blessed in the past with the right person showing up at the right time. I feel confident that we're about to be blessed again. The success of UUCSJS was not by any means guaranteed, and it's still not. Many times during our past 12 years, it's looked as though we might not make it. But as is often the case, adversity builds strength. I have a neighbor, a friend, who helped build a Christian congregation that's 200 strong. They have a budget that's twice ours and a beautiful facility. But the congregation was built largely on the voice and personality of their pastor, who is now leaving them. And this has put their congregation in a tailspin because they never developed the leadership needed to move forward. We have endured because we have a depth of talent and commitment in this congregation that I believe will keep us strong and enduring well into the future. We have this beautiful building, but as Bob Gillis so eloquently put it a few weeks ago, we are more than our building. We are a caring group of people, a community. We as a congregation do not need a minister. We have been blessed with a professional staff of Barbara as our Sunday service coordinator and her wonderful music ministry. And Heidi, who not only administers the congregation, provides the best lifespan religious education we've had to date. There is no better time to shop for something than when you don't desperately need it. It empowers you to keep looking if you haven't found what you're looking for. Of course, it would be nice to have a minister to conduct rites of passage. But what we want, but don't necessarily need right away, is someone to amplify our collective voice. And further, and this is one of those things I pray for that I'm not quite sure who I'm praying to, a leader who can access and motivate the local interfaith community to build a voice of common ground. The environment and the protection of the underclass, for instance. These are things that most faith communities can get behind. We may not agree with some of the issues of our landlord up the street, but we shouldn't discontinue the dialogue. We need to have a respectful environment so that issues of conscience aren't left to those with a profit motive and political influence. When you receive this year's case statement, I think I have one here.